Okay, so without going too far, we're just going to assume that we've made all of our adjustments that we need to make, and we're very, very happy with our finished image. We've already gone to the trouble of saving our PSD file, so we have our master copy. It has all our layers built in there, so if we want to come back at any given time and make a change to that, it's there for us. But at this point, we're going to consider that's all been done. Now we want to make a print. So you've decided to print an image, this particular image, and you want to print it, say a 30 by 20 inch print. Okay. Now the size of the image, the size of the print you're making is important, because you may need to adjust your sharpening depending on the size. You won't need to make the same, I suppose you won't need to sharpen it the same amount if you're making a 12 by 8 inch print as opposed to a 60 by 40 inch print. So generally what I do is, if say this is the first time I've printed this image, I'm going to make a template of a 20 by 30 sharpened image, and I'm going to save that as my master print file for a 20 by 30. And when I then print a different size, I'll do the same. So I don't have to do it over and over again. I know if I get the sharpening right once, I print it, it's good. I don't have to redo it. So that's what I do. Again, it's just a process. It's your workflow. It's how you do things, how you make life simple for yourself. So first of all, when I'm sharpening an image, the first thing I do is I go ahead and I flatten the file. So I don't want layers. You can only sharpen an image. You can't sharpen an adjustment. We could go ahead and sharpen this and keep the adjustments in there as well. But I've already got all that saved. I don't need it anymore. Okay, so we've just reduced the size of the window here just so you can see. We've got all our different layers just here, but if we go up into just across in this panel, you see a little drop down box, and in there you have merge down, merge visible, and flatten image. We're going to flatten the image. Okay, so you can see what's happened is all of the layers, including the two image layers, the background, the copy with the cloning, and the 3 adjustment layers and masks, have all been flattened into one file, one layer I should say. And what I'm going to do from here, because when we're sharpening, you don't really need to sharpen the sky. It can create grain or grit within that area, so you don't really want to sharpen the sky. You don't really want to sharpen the water. What we want to sharpen really is just the sand and through here. Not so much of this end, but definitely the trees and the houses here, and definitely, most definitely, the sand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer, and then I'm going to create a mask. So down here, you'll see here we can click on there and it creates a mask for us. Okay. Now, if we click back onto the image, we're going to sharpen that image, but we're going to be selective about what we sharpen. But as a rule, again, we're going to sharpen the whole image, and then we're going to use the mask to hide some of the sharpening and just to let some of it through. So if we go up to the top into filter and down to sharpen. So you can see here there's lots of different ways of sharpening. And the more commonly used are unsharpened mask and smart sharpen. My favorite way is unsharpened mask. Okay. So you have a preview here of what it's going to look like. But what we need to do, if you can see down here, the image is at a 17.16%. When you're sharpening, you really should be sharpening in whole percentages for a start, and you really want to get in close. So I would say sharpen at a minimum 50%, but probably 100%, depending on the size of the file. So if we just bring that up, and just by pressing the Command and Control and the plus sign, brings that up to 100% for us. Now, it's probably a bit close for this image. I'm going to go out to 50%, and I think that'll be fine. Okay, so you can see this little box here is the preview window. So if we go down here, you can see a 100% preview as well. So if we then go and sharpen, now first of all we have a radius and threshold. We're going to bring the threshold up to about 5, and we're going to leave the radius at 1. Okay, that's just the default. That would stay the same forever. This is when I learned Photoshop. This is something that I was taught to do, so I've done it ever since. I've had perfect results since then. So 5 is fine. With the amount, this is where our adjustment's going to be. Okay, so we can bring the amount up and down, and you can see down here you can see that sharpening coming on and off. Okay, what you want to do with sharpening is, particularly for print, you want to get to a point where you think you're right and then just go a little bit over. As a rule of thumb, you know, usually for a full-size large image, around about 250 I find, or maybe to 300. Is pretty good. And if we go up to 100% and have a look at that, toggle it on and off, might come down a little bit, and that's probably fine. So I'm going to hit OK, and we've now sharpened our top layer, our top image. But what we're going to do now is create that mask by clicking on the mask and hitting Command and Control I. Now if we zoom back out so we can actually see our image, what we want to do is we need our brush. We're on black, so we need a white brush. We're going to put it at 100%. So hit 0 for 100% opacity. And all we're going to do is brush that in all around the sand and this tree line area. So what I'm doing is just brushing in, and you don't have to be too accurate. You're just getting those areas that will really look a lot better with sharpening. You're getting them uncovered with the mask. So if we just hit the Optional Alt key, we can see what we've got and what we've missed. So there it is. We've sharpened the image and we have masked the image as well. So if we go back to 100%, go back to the beach where we've put the sharpening applied and switch this one on and off, and you can see where we've made the sharpening come through that mask. But if you have a look at the water, there's no change. If you have a look down here, there's not much of a change happening down here. So what we can do is we can go back into that mask, get our brush back on, and just go over that area, get that sharpening a little bit better. Okay, so we're done. So from that point, I'll bring that image back down to fit the screen. Again, we're going to flatten the image. And now we're going to resize the image. So we go up into image size. I'm going to change from pixels to inches. And we're going to make this a 30-inch by 21-inch, 20-inch print, sorry. And change the DPI. I should have done this for us, 30 DPI. I don't really apply noise reduction here. We're downsizing actually, so bicubic sharpener for reduction. If you're enlarging, you would go bicubic smoother for enlargement. or bicubic detail for enlargement. So they've added some new features to this sharpening, or to this resizing. So we're going to go to reduction, hit OK. Our image is now resized to 30 inches by 20 inches. And the last thing we need to do is we need to save it out. So we're going to hit save, save as. We're going to now change it to JPEG, because we don't want to give anybody a raw file, or sorry, a PSD file. It's a really large file. We'll save it as a JPEG, hit save. I've already saved it before. I'm going to just hit save. I'm going to hit replace. Maximum 10 is perfectly fine. As I said before, I don't really think you're going to see the difference if you make it 12 or 10. Okay, and just hit OK. So there we have it. It's saving as we see it. That image has been processed, resized, sharpened, and saved for print. So you can take that file off to your printer and they'll give you a beautiful print.